Ladies and gentlemen, it's our great honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to attend the exclusive webinar of Industrial and Logistics Sector under the topic Resilient During Uncertainties, co-hosted between Carbon Steel from BlueScope Vietnam and GLL Vietnam. Before starting, we would like to introduce the representative of our speakers today. Ms. Trang Bùi, Head of Market GLL Vietnam. Mr. Trí Nguyễn, President of NS BlueScope Lightsat Vietnam, and Ms. Trân Huỳnh, Chief Operating Officer of KCN Vietnam. And especially, we would like to welcome the representative of our distinguished guests, senior executive and manager for many countries. And now, I would like to invite Ms. Trang Bùi, Head of Market GLL Vietnam, to continue to moderate the meeting today. Please welcome her.
Thank you so much, Phương. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my presentation. So today what I try to give information to every of attendees today is that sharing some industrial logistics trends in APAC before I go into talk about the Vietnam market update and also some outlook for this particular sectors, which is just a very strong role, and also I believe that receive a lot of attention from funds, developers, and also occupiers. So that's what I will try to cover this morning. So first section, I'm going to talk about trends for the logistics and industrial sectors. The first trend that we see in the past couple of years is that, we see, a lot of retail business has been changed and shifting from traditional offline trading to the online platform. And we see that significantly in terms of the online transaction has been increased 20% compared to 2015 is only 70%. And from the online ordering that previously other retailer, when they sell their products, they're gonna hide the store and stuff like that. They rent the store, but now online platform they won't rent the store much more than before, but they need the space to store their product to deliver to the customer. So following up that trend, we see that increase significantly for the logistics. On the logistics sector, is showing strong role not only from the online retail trading, but also, from food distributors that also accounted quite strong role for the logistics as well. And this is just showing you some others factors that enables that increase the significant strong role for logistics sectors in APAC. And medical supply, and particularly for the 3BL companies, also demand quite role space for them as well in entire APAC. And also export activities and cold storage, we also see that accounted for the logistics role in APAC. And well, now another trend that we also see is that in terms of the e-commerce that lead in by America before and Europe, which is a very well mature market for e-commerce, but that's going to be changed. It's continued to grow for sure in terms of e-commerce sectors in Europe and other places. But what we've been observing is that in Asia Pacific, in the next by 2024, the global e-commerce that Asia Pacific will contribute to 50% of that, and just give you some sort of the figure here is from 2019 to 2024, that significantly in terms of the e-commerce logistics contribute by Asia Pacific alone. So now, well, if we're talking about one trend is that for the industrial sectors and also for logistics sector, we see even though despite the pandemic, but we see that industrial rent and also the capital values grow quite strongly in APAC, particularly to Tokyo and Beijing, that we see that the industrial rent is still remain resilient. Now another trend that's quite important I'd like to share is that the capital that they see the very logistics and industrial sector is quite attractive, and the capital already following the opportunity in this sector. And what we've been seeing is that, in the past, we record in terms of the capital raising for this sector alone. From in the past 10 years, it has been significantly increased. And alone in 2020 with the entire pandemic, I believe that its impact to other sectors like retail, hotel as first of all, and then retail that everywhere in the world now is still shut down. Some of the place, but also even though some of the place in the world are reopened, but the retail is still challenging. So following to that, the retail sectors, retail asset class is also impacted, and also working from home impacted to the office sector as well for the investor, and hotel, office, retail. So what we see is that for the logistics sectors and industrial sector are still stabilized, and the institutional investors has been also have some structure shift in terms of their investment. What we also see is that in 2020 alone, for the fund has been raised for logistics sectors and industrial sectors has been double compared to previous year, and this trend continue to grow in the following years. So just to give some perspective here, as we take the comparisons in terms of how the investment that shift for the logistics sector versus to other sectors. And you can see here from 2019, it has been increased significantly in terms of the portfolio investment from the institutional investor, that logistics sector accounted 17%, where we see that in 2015 is only 10%. It's quite a big jump, from 2019 and continue to grow for 2020 and 2021 for logistics sectors. So now, what we see in here is that, in terms of the industrial transaction volume, we see that from 2019 from Southeast Asia is accounted quite large percentage of transaction volume for industrial sectors, and also that continued to grow in 2020 and also forecast for entire 2021. One thing that's also we record is that, for the average industrial transaction size in Asia Pacific that we accounted, we see that average deal size is also has been increasing, from 20 million average deal size for industrial, it has been also increased almost, double, 50% in 2020. And continue to increase the size of the deal that investor looking for this, sectors of investment. So one trend is quite important is that I think that, the world we are living with a lot of, we face into a lot of challenge, not only pandemic alone, but also with the climate change and some pollution, the result of the industrialization. More than ever, now that we see that, a lot of businesses, not only occupiers and investor, but everybody in video also care about the green living and also sustainability. So I thought that this is quite interesting to discuss today. This trend not only happen, very strongly in APAC. And one thing is quite important is that we take a surveys, and the survey showing that 82% occupiers are either leading or on the part of, sustainability. One thing is quite interesting when we did the survey is that in terms of the journey pursuing the sustainability, we see the occupiers on the past 61%, where investors is less 40%, but on the leading part, investor accounted more. So we will find out why there is a gap for this, but also just to give you some, indicatives, initiative adopted for green and sustainability value is that one thing we found is quite interesting is that the priorities building certification, what is just we see that investor that pursues is much strong in their development. So now I'm going to talk about the industrial industrial and logistics for Vietnam overview. And let's have a just quick look about, let me move this here. Okay. Talking about, the FDI into Vietnam in the first 6 months of 2021, well, it's quite reduced because of the result of pandemic challenge. It's reduced 2.6% compared to previous year, but it's still more than 56% of the FDI flow into the country that accounted for the manufacturing. And just give you some example of notable, manufacturers that has been invested and relocate or expansion into Vietnam. Well, just I would like to have the comparisons what that FDI for the manufacturing in Vietnam comparison to other countries in Southeast Asia. Then the figures has been shown that for the FDI into the manufacturing sectors in Southeast Asia has been double over the last year. And also, for Southeast Asia's strongest manufacturing FDI attraction is still leading by Vietnam and Indonesia and following by Thailand. So it just gives you some perspective and comparison of FDI in terms of the manufacturing for Vietnam compared to other countries. So now, also the reason, global trade and also crisis between trade war of China and the US is also have the push for a lot of manufacturers moving to Southeast Asia. And just to give what we sort of observing some movement, particular more than 50 multinational companies that shift out of China to Vietnam recent years. And just give you some sort of, in the past 18 months, some significant that movement that we have been seeing. Well, previously a lot of forecasts saying that the North has, receive a lot of benefit because of the proximity to China. But also we see entire Vietnam, benefit from that. And just give some example here that Bình Dương, also Long An, well, we also receive quite a lot of manufacturers moving from this relocation or expansion. Well, now just have a look about the overall for industrial and logistics sectors. Well, this slide will give you entire overview of all the asset class in these sectors. And well, a lot of information here is, but I won't go to too much detail. For key takeaway here is that just everybody that know in Vietnam, we developed three economic regions, the North, the Central, and the South. But just to give you some perspective in terms of performance for industrial land, the North occupancy rate is 75%, and then the Central is less at 42%. And the Southern is accounted quite high occupancy rate in terms of industrial land, at 85%. In terms of the total ready-built factory, the South is still accounted the largest supply in the country, that accounted to 3.2 million square meter for the ready-built facilities. And in terms of the ready-built facility in the North is it's less. Accounted only 1.9 million square meters, but we also see quite a number of supply significantly increasing in the North in the coming years, where the centrals, for the in terms of the manufacturing move to Vietnam, the central is still accounted quite small. And for an SME type of enterprises, the majorities of the production they still much more focused in the North and the South. So here just give you some perspective of the key occupiers industry in different regions. Well, now we always, because a lot of JLL has also run a lot of events or webinar about these growth sectors, and we're quite leading in terms of updating the information to the market. But also there's a question we often got asked is that whether this is really oversupply, or the market is too hard, or it's gonna be it just sort of it's a lot of speculators. Those questions is still got asked a lot to us, but just well, it's not that for us to answer right now, but just give you some data point and also perspective in later slide, to so that we can discuss about that later. But here just would like to show you in terms of industrial land price in Southeast Asia. Well, some significantly land price has been increased in some hotspot industrial location in Vietnam. And we a lot of occupier investor, they found is quite significantly and put them to the challenge. Also, we would like to put a comparison here in terms of the industrial land price compared to Southeast Asia and where we are. And well, you can see from the chart here, it's quite still relatively lower than other countries or cities. And what we would like to show you here is that, the manufacturing in Vietnam, even though it has been significant growth in the past couple of years and also continue to grow in the coming years, but it still be high compared to other regions. And here we just take a comparison of, Indonesia or Philippines and Malaysia. Indonesia is still leading in terms of, for attracting FDI for manufacturing. But what we see in is that, for Vietnam, will be forecasting until 2013 is that the strong role of manufacturing that accounted quite largest in Southeast Asia alongside with Indonesia, where we see that other countries that are quite behind us in terms of the role for the manufacturing FDI. Well, what makes us attractive to, for the at the data of domestic consumptions in the past 10 years of Vietnam, it has been increased, accounted gradually is that 9% per annum for the domestic consumption in Vietnam. Now, if we look at for the export activities that increase at 12% per annum, despite with the COVID-19, this figures still continue increase in 2021. And also some forecasts that we have been, working and collect the data. That I'm quite confident to say that for the domestic consumption and export activity in Vietnam continue to grow minimum, 9 to 10%, respectively for domestic and export activity in Vietnam in the next 5 years. Okay, so now, this is quite interesting when we put the comparisons. So what we say is that the logistics trend in Vietnam, which is majority the north and central, have in terms of the logistics rental role, if we compare to Southeast Asia, we in 2019 actually significant growth before the pandemic. That particularly to the south, that the rental role up to almost 30% that rental role for some locations, and also average for the entire region. And well, a lot of occupiers felt quite pressure for them when the rental has been increased quite significant compared to the reverse lease term. Whether or not that we see in terms of the rental role is accounted, less, a little bit softer compared to the south, but it's still 15%, where the entire Southeast Asia is 10%. And also with the 2020, the pandemic impact, the world, and also impact to the rental role in Southeast Asia. well, also some of the question that also raises us a lot is that what is the forecast for the rental, logistics rental in the coming years? So we have the developer here. So I will save that for later and then for us to discuss. Now, in terms of the logistics and industrial sectors in Vietnam at the moment, we see that it's a lot of attention for the sectors and also the capital following into the sectors. But the demand, despite of the rapid, sorry, I have some problem here with my. Okay, with the rapid demand growth, we still see, for this sector is still the early state of the market of growth. And if we look at, it just started growing significantly that we see in 2018, and it's going to be continue, moving forward. And just give you some comparison for the Southeast Asia average. Also, one thing that perspective that I think is quite important for us to look at in terms of, because now we see a lot of fund has been raised for Vietnam logistics strategies, and along that is over 3 billion USD has been raised in the past 3 years for logistics development and investment into the country. But right now we see that also undersupply for logistics sectors not only happen in Vietnam, but also in Southeast Asia. That just give you some comparisons of that. And this I'm going to show you one thing is also quite important. So we did this sort of statistics of different states for the industrial logistics in Vietnam, from and also how we compare to the rest of the world or APAC, Asia Pacific countries. So what we see is that in 2017, where Vietnam is under nascent state at here. But in 2020, we moved up to the new state of the mature. And for China, it took them 20 years to move from the nascent state to the mature state. So the question is, how long it's going to take Vietnam to move from here to here? And to the advanced state, to give you some perspective, is that Japan is right now as advanced state, and Singapore is toward to the end of the mature state and move to the advanced state. And the question is that how long, whether it takes Vietnam 20 years to move up to the mature state like China did, or it takes us faster. So I will reserve that question for us to continue watch the market, and then we can discuss in the coming years of the market. But what I would like also to show you here is that what we see in Vietnam is the big transformation in terms of the economy, and the transformation is happening entire country from the north and the south. One thing is quite important for Vietnam to move to the mature state is that what type of manufacturers or production that they choose to or they have the present in Vietnam. And one of the key things that contribute to that is for us to be able to move to the mature state is that the biomedicals or high-tech advanced manufacturing and tradings, and also that for the Vietnam, it's as a country that can manufacture some electronics or some cars, or not only just assembly. And thank you, some high tech as well. So one thing is quite important that we see one transformation in Vietnam happening in the south is we have some sort of petrochemicals is also considered that one of industry for the mature state of the industrial, country. And in Vietnam, in the south, we actually formationed one, petrochemical hub in Long Sơn Islands. Well, that what happening in the countries, and Vietnam also quite unique that for the Mekong Delta region, we also see in the very strong role of agriculture, and we see the agriculture product has been moved up to the value chain, to the higher value chain as well. Well, so now just to bring to some forecast for the in terms of industrial sectors for supply that accounted from now to until 2025 for the industrial land that future supply will be accounted almost 17,000 hectares for the north, and the south is also some similar figures. In terms of the ready-built factories, that for the total supply that we accounted for now, that for the future supply is going to be 1.1 million square meters, and the ready-built warehouse that 1 million square meters, particularly to the north. As I mentioned before, we see a quite strong role for the north activity, some logistics and also manufacturing activity here. It brings us to conclusions. In terms of the Vietnam industrial and logistics sectors, we still see that this sectors is remain very desirable for the investors, developers, and also occupiers. Everybody would like to have the large. If they already have, the piece of Vietnam, they would like to have the larger piece of Vietnam in terms of logistics, businesses or industrial businesses. For Vietnam, as continue, we see that the government have spent a lot of GDP to improve infrastructure moving forward, because the government fully aware of how attractive the country is for the FDI in the manufacture, in industrial and logistics. We also see the healthy performance for industrial logistics and also others related sectors as well in Vietnam. And what we also see is that for these sectors for manufacturing in Vietnam is also before is basically much more focused on labor intensive, but now we also see that move up to the value chains and also value added industry. And final, that we can conclude that Vietnam right now received a huge investment globally, not only for logistics and industrial sectors, but also for others related sectors. Particularly one sector we see is also quite strong role alongside with industrial sectors as residentials. It's still one or two residential logistics sectors and industrial sectors are accounted very strong role in the coming years. I think that for JWL Vietnam, we have in terms of industrial logistics, we cover in 16 countries in IPAC, and also have 80 offices serving for industrial and logistics, advisory and activities. We have one hub globally and regionally in Asia Pacific for industrial and logistics focus. And we well advised from capital markets services, and also leasing, brokerage and supply chain, and also research and marketing. It just brings us to the end of my presentation, and thank you so much for your time and listening and pay attention. I hope that my sharing is useful for you, and in case that if you would like to have some follow-up questions or some inquiries, please feel free to contact myself. Now I would like to invite the next speaker, that Ms. Trần Huấn from KCN. She is COO of KCN, and she will share with us about how, as a developer, building the resilience during the uncertainties. Over to you, Ms. Trần Huấn.
Thank you, Jan, for a very informative insight. Let me share with you my presentation. Can you see?
Yeah.
Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I think today I'll just have a brief overview on what we have experienced as an investor and developer in Vietnam during so many uncertain times this year. So today I will just run through on a quick highlight of some of the challenges that we faced from 2021, and then also the negative impact it has had on us and other businesses, and then how the market had responded to those uncertainties, and what we should be thinking and preparing ahead to face those challenges. So just a little bit about KCN Vietnam. We are an industrial platform. We invest in building industrial properties for lease. We have currently 250 hectares of land in our portfolio, with a pipeline of an additional 300 hectares. This covers nationwide from north to south, and our current portfolio currently sits in 3 locations. Our target is actually to grow with the supply chain sector in Vietnam and cater to the growing demand of that. And we target to add additional services and value add services to the end user as well. We focus on being that local to global connector for industrial users in Vietnam. In terms of what we have seen so far in the marketplace, what I've noticed is that we had the COVID pandemic start in 2020, and globally we saw that Vietnam during the first wave had been able to manage and handle our situation fairly well compared to other countries. And it was not until the second wave this year when actually Vietnam has been hit in that sense. We've seen during the take-up of the second wave from the earlier part of this year, Vietnam having increased in confirmed cases. So as of the 17th of August, we've have over 280,000 confirmed cases in Vietnam, with over 6,000 deaths so far. And what we're seeing with the various extensions on Directive 16 and the extension on lockdown, this has hugely impacted Vietnam. But having said that, overall, Vietnam has still been able to achieve GDP growth of over 5.5% in the first half of 2021. In addition to the pandemic, what we also have seen is that construction costs have actually increased. And this is actually mainly driven by the raw materials of iron ore, which from July 2020 till this year has actually increased by over 70%. This has had a huge impact on development and construction. And it's not just only in the industrial market, but also other segments in the market as well, with for every other developers building residential and office buildings. So we're seeing that this has a huge impact, and I'm looking forward to hearing Anjee's presentation, where he'll share a little bit more on strategies and trends going forward. Because as you can see in this slide here, industrial property itself, over 50% of our raw materials is made from steel. So we have it in our foundation with the rebars, the corrugated metal cladding on the roof and on the walls. So this actually has had a huge impact on an overall cost per square meter to our product. So what's happened is that we're seeing projects either being postponed, delayed, whereby investors are now reviewing their fundamentals of their feasibility studies, looking at adjustments on rents. But it's not purely just a numbers game, because we also need to factor in what's happening with demand and how that has also impacted the rollout of the projects. And what we need to start to consider is how else we can build better, and also look at a long-term approach in terms of the product that's being developed. So these impacts, both with the pandemic and the construction costs, how has that hit us? I mean, the supply chain market has been hit the most. I would say that with the pandemic, we're seeing labor, the workers are significantly impacted. There's a shortage of laborers as people are forced to stay locked down, and people are traveling from their cities back home to stay within their closer to the family during this lockdown period. In addition to that, there's actually more demand from the online goods being ordered. So this has actually really created a boost in terms of demand and a little bit of a blockage in the system, as the system cannot keep up with the increase in demand, particularly for the logistics of fresh foods and vegetables coming into those in the areas that are being locked down. In addition, production has also been impacted. I was speaking to a number of our tenants and partners, and they have shared in terms of their production output has actually been dropped by over 50% during the last 3 months due to the Directive 16 restrictions. This has all impacted us as end users, businesses, manufacturers, and also one other key thing is the ports. We see a lot of the news on the ports of, where the containers are being piled up because of the shortage of labor and the ability to actually access to other locations. This has actually had a huge impact on goods coming in and going out to the region. And from a KCN level, I thought it was interesting to share with you in terms of our inquiries that we received for our projects, and we tag it along with the outbreak. So, in May, we had the outbreak in the north where Baxiang was locked down. It didn't have as much impact until actually you can see from June onwards a significant decline in terms of inquiries due to the lockdown period. What we're seeing is that manufacturers and end user are delaying their expansion plans or postponing decision-making process. And this has impact on also the rollout from developers to actually commence construction on the project. So we'll see this lag happening between now and towards the end of the year until actually there is some ease on restrictions for people to be able to move around as well within the key industrial hubs. And how has the market responded to that? I mean, Vietnam does have limited infrastructure, but the government is doing well in terms of trying to roll out as much as possible. They actually have prioritized vaccination for factory workers in key hot locations where actually the pandemic has hit significantly. In addition to that, the government has allowed some deferred tax payments for e-commerce players. And also, businesses are coming together to support each other with, you can see locations of hotels and apartments being converted into quarantine sites, and also factories being converted to temporary hospital and clinic sites to help support managing the rollout of the rollout of the vaccination and also addressing the pandemic issues. And for us, when I analyze a little bit further on how we're seeing as well at KCN, is that initially in the first half of the year, we had a lot more FDI interest in terms of our inquiries compared to local expansion. And when I say local expansion, I mean already foreign companies already in Vietnam and also Vietnamese company expanding. So what we see here in this chart is quite interesting, is that there's been a shift towards local expansion business, where business actually have been picking up in terms of production and goods. And we're seeing companies here expanding further with the rapid growth of supply chain here in Vietnam. And new foreign investment inquiries actually have slowed down during this period. So one of the strategy for us at KCN is we are very much focused on assisting and supporting the local expansion market. I think what happens is, and also the difference is that local expansion can make decisions much faster during this period because they already understand the landscape of Vietnam. They understand the connectivities to the key gateways, as opposed to new entrants who will need time to research and compare where they need to be, whether it's a location in the north, in the south, in the central of Vietnam. So I think that's where we're also seeing a difference in terms of the change in inquiries that we're receiving at KCN. So this comes to what everybody is thinking. Well, how do we prepare for uncertainty? You know, during times, if you look at the chart with North and South, you know, we're seeing industrial land prices increase. You know, on average is 5 to 7% from North to South, respectively. We're also seeing that, okay, rents have been stabilized, but they've also had some increase, particularly in the North. As you see that there's more tech industry coming through. In addition to that, compounded by the increase in cost for an investor on land price with limited growth in rents, we're compounded by the pandemic, delay in construction due to limited labours, also price increase on construction costs, and then also being able to get things done due to the lockdown. So what have we been doing at KCN to address this situation during uncertain times is we're reviewing our strategy in terms of our rent. I mean, it's very easy for everybody to say, okay, let's just increase the rent. But I think effectively, we need to understand our end user, why they choose a location and how that will impact on their business. So during this period, we are taking our time to review, really understand our end users' needs in terms of what else we can support them. And it's purely not just a rental increase that will make us as an attractive or preferred landlord for our end user. Secondly is for the manufacturer during COVID time is labor shortage and welfare. So welfare also means taking into account accommodation for workers during this period. And I think companies and business now need to think ahead in terms of how do they manage that to accommodate and address this, where you know that some factory workers go to their, since the lockdown, actually have to live and stay in the factory. So how do we can support our end user through this period? So at KCN, we're reviewing this in terms of our design and our product mix and how we can support our tenants in terms of giving them some options. And one other key area is having some alternative backup plans. And when I say this, it's mainly focusing on, you know, being flexible to cater to our end user, because you can see that some expansion of the domestic market is only a short-term requirement. So should we consider in our master plan certain areas where we can look at leaving it for short-term leases to accommodate to our existing tenants for their short-term expansion needs if they have an overload in terms of storage in their existing warehouse within our facility. So these are the things that we're working with towards to create some option and flexibility towards our tenants and our customers. In addition, I think one of the key things with what we're seeing is planning ahead and also crisis management. So I think this is a critical issue, and I think most businesses will have this in place in terms of how to manage certain situation. It's not just the pandemic or the construction costs, but if there is anything else if there was a fire, how do we secure that? Do we have the resources in place? Do we have enough staff and technology and equipment to also help support our tenants during this period? So I think, you know, with such uncertainty, one of the key answer that we arrived at KCN is that we want to be flexible and adaptable to the changing environment, and also be able to be nimble to address all these issues. So I think for us is like taking a collaborative approach, and during this time we spend our time to really understand the needs of our end user, and also look at where the market demand trends are, to better prepare ourselves moving forward. I mean, this ties up into some of our products that we are looking at designing, preparing for hybrid products where we can address short-term use for manufacturing. And as logistics demand increase over the years with improved infrastructure and increases in the e-commerce sector, we can convert our product into a warehouse much more easily. So these are some of the things. I'd love to hear some more questions from the audience, and I will pass it on to Anji to share a little bit more on his market insight in terms of construction and steel prices from BlueScope.
All right. Thank you, Teacher, a lot. I will share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, and
okay, thanks a lot, Jitran, for introductions. And again, very good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here, representing BlueScope, to share our understanding on recent steel price fluctuations, root cause, and what we have been doing to ultimately minimize the risks, not only for ourselves, but also for our customers as well. We also want to share what we have on hand moving forward for the steel price trend. Of course, we are not in the position to forecast the price and to tell you the price will go up or down, but we just try to provide the market information and the analysis as well, which I believe that you can have your own judgment, or you can have your own decisions based on the nature of your business, whether you are the developers like KCN or you are the contractor, for example. So let me just start my section by short introductions of BlueScope for those who have not been really familiar with our business. We are a global steel solution provider from Australia, with more than 100 years of experience across the continents. We have been in Vietnam since 1993 with a downstream business with the brand Lysat. We supply various product solutions for industrial and then commercial purposes, like roofing and walling for industrial houses. We offer re-engineering build factory, steel decking for multi-floor buildings, and also the agri-sect for the agriculture segments as well. And 2003, we continue to committed our investment in Vietnam with the new factory for coated painted line in Phu My, that we produce the coated and painted coil materials. Normally, you will see the brand Collarbond for the industrial, and then Zax for the residential as well. And we are quite proud in the market, in the industrial, that in the segment that we are doing the business, thanks to our continuous innovations and then service offering that we give into the market. So for the steel price, the recent steel price fluctuation, I think we have been witnessing a lot of fluctuate, a lot of dramatic increase recently, and sometime in Q1 of even Q1 of this year, we are also witnessing a lot of shortage supply issues as well, which in my view mainly driven by the supplies, and then the unbalance between supply and then demand factors, and it including the first one is the high steel demand that it bounced back from first waves of COVID, especially some developed market like US, that you can see that, for example, the normal PMI, average PMI for the market is 50, but for US for the last 8 months, it is always around 60, which is very strong demand in the market for the steel demand. And the second one, if you look at the gap between the price from US and then Asia market, the hot rolled coil prices, you can easily see the big gap is up to $1,000 per metric tons. This is a very big gap. That's why a majority of Asian and supply, they try to export to US market for higher margin. So in the batches, for your information, the gap is just $200 around. So it's a very narrow gap between two markets, and that's also the reasons. The second reason is that there's a fact that we cannot deny is China is still a very big key supplier in the global steel market, right? So every single year, the global steel market, crude steel production produce 1.9 billion, around almost 1.9 billion metric ton. And then only China, they account for more than 50% of the global production. And then for the past recent years, China, they have been make a lot of effort to reduce the carbon emission by cutting the local manufacturing. They reduce the export to supply for domestic demand. And similar to US market, China, after first wave COVID, their domestic demand also very strong as well. So they did a lot of activity to govern the local manufacturing, and they also cut the export rebate to protect the steel supply for the domestic market. So I think that also a very big reason. And last but not least, the disruption of supply chain due to COVID is also a very big factors as well. We see the high rise in the logistics, I mean shipping costs, and we see also a lot of disruption in the supplies as well. That also create a lot of shortage issue that can create the price increase. So that's it for the price fluctuation in recent months. How about the futures? So for the coming time, as said, we are trying to give you today is the holistic view on all the demand and supply factors that can both impact either up or side down, up or downside of the pricings. Why I'm saying that? Because those kind of demand and supply factor, it could change in a very short period of time, and we need to observe very closely to see what is going to be the trend for the pricings. So let me start with the demand factors. As you can see, it's so a bit strong region for domestic China uptrend, given China's strong backlog orders due to the control on cutting the production on second half and strong Asian home appliances flat steel demand. Meanwhile, if we look at the demand factors on the downtrend side, the possibility is still there, and it's mainly come from the soft demand across Asian country due to recent pandemic wave, and then also low PMI in two big markets of China and Japan as well, which could create a bit soft demand. And then from the supply factors, uptrend price is supported again by the China production restriction for Beijing Olympics. And again, another very important factor is that the rumor, again, it's the rumors on China that they will impose the export tax. Not only take out the rebate, but they will impose additional tax for export from 1st of September. It is still the rumor, and we don't know until 1st of September anyway. This is for the uptrend side, and for the downtrend side, on the other hand, we still see some downtrend offer. With the offer, the down pricing offer from some of steel mill, even from Vietnam, like Formosa, and from China. And then another factor is that some of the other big market like Russia and India, due to their short market demand, they also try to compete to export. That also cause some downtrend for the pricings. In short, I think the steel price is still expected to fluctuate. It's now in a quite high base at the moment, but it is really uncertain, and many factors are still unclear ahead. Those factors like COVID, the demand from every single country because of pandemics, and key player like China's and then India's with their tariff, this is still unclear at the moment. And I think we need to really watch out closely to see what will happen in coming times. So coming back to our topic today, to our forum today, it's about logistics. So beside the sharing from Mistran, lots of information, right, and also Mistran on how they mitigate with the pandemics. I think we also we also see some of the trend in the market for the industries as well. The first one is we see a lots of modern warehouse with different operation models right now in the market, not only from a simple rent asset, but to complicated distribution model, for example, which require very high standard for the buildings, from the design to the materials of the buildings, and also from the operations as well. The second trend is on the price of the land. Mistran already told very clearly. There are lots of there are rapid increase in terms of land, industrial land, and it results affects that the demand for multi-floor warehousing is increasing dramatically as well, and all players in the value chain need to adapt with that. The third trend is about the sustainability factors. So many of our customers require the high standard quality products. Like Mistran also mentioned in the report on sustainability, they start to think about the certificate as well for their warehouse, for their materials, so that they can upgrade themselves as a high quality service or warehousing providers. And in BlueScope, we have been doing lots of activity to drive those sustainability trend, not only for us, but majority for our customer and then for the communities. And last but not least, we also see the ready build factory. This is a new trend as well for small and for local small and medium enterprise, because they are not ready to invest for the capex due to the high industrial land cost, and also easy for some of the FDI that they want to move from China. Just like Mistran also mentioned, right? More than 50 a lot of enterprise they move to Vietnam from China, and for those who want to try to take the market, normally they will start with the ready build factory with a simple capex equipment, moving, and then they operate and before they roll out the full investment. So I think that is how we see the market move at steel manufacturing. So with all those factors, COVID, and then also new trends of logistics, and particularly price fluctuation. So BlueScope, we have been making a tremendous effort to minimize the risks, and this is not only for us, but also for our customers as well. And again, I don't think BlueScope or other similar market players can do things to change the trends of the price. But what we can do is just try to minimize it as much as we can. So the first one is that we try our best to diversify our sourcing in difficult times. And in fact, in BlueScope, this is what we have been doing before COVID or before the crisis happens. We have different sorts of suppliers, and then we follow strictly our process of testing of their products, so that 100% of our material that we source will be compatible with our standard and then our requirements. That's the first thing. Second thing, we change how we operate our business. We change our S&OP process. Previously, we do normally monthly process, but now we do even weekly process. And we do best to forecast and buy the reasonable stock to cover the plan at the minimum risk. So at BlueScope, our manufacturers, so we are not trying to do trading business. Of course, some people will try to stock if they think that the price will go up, but that's a two-way game. And in BlueScope, we just try to do a healthy, sustainable business by doing the best forecast that we could. And we have some principle at some certain periods of time. We will prioritize for our loyal, our close customers. And in fact, for the past half years, we prioritize our supply for domestic customer rather than exports as well. So that's what we do to monitor the risks in the best way for us and for our customers as well. And third one, we have quickly because the price increased. This is the facts. So at BlueScope, we always before that we always operate in very first tier of next premium market. But now to support the customer deal with the situation, we also develop additional solution with more choice for the project owners, for the developers. That I will mention more detail in coming slide. So first one, if you look at the left-hand side, the first solution we focused recently is the composite decking. I mentioned this is to serve for the multi-floor factory demand under the emerging industrial land cost. When the land cost go up, so a lot of developer and our customer, they have the demand to build multi-story factory. And with our unique designs of the Bluestock tool, we create the composite slab that can help to reduce the cost by saving from work equipments, saving construction timings, and also saving the reinforcement steel in concrete slab. And more importantly, due to the very special designs, it is much safer for the construction side to use our product versus traditional formwork option. And all those functions have been tested and certified by our R&D lab in Australia. And we believe it can help our customer to optimize the investment during these coming times as well. And if you look at the right-hand side, for the roofings, which is very critical for the warehousing, right? We have our first tier products, we call Clip Lock, we call Smart Sim, which is for best performance. For example, Maxim, such Maxim can ensure zero leaking for your warehouse. And it can perform very well in high wind width area, just like 220 kilometers per hour, or cyclone areas. And under this difficult time, in terms of pricing increase, we introduce another second tier range of products. We call EcoLock and EcoSim. And we use also second tier material from midstream, which is BlueScope midstream. For the roofing application, we can help to save up to 30%. And we encourage our capital customer to use this for some of the low wind speed non-cyclic areas, which means that the investor can have more flexible choice, alternative option based on the planning of the performance of the warehouse, or based on the rate that they want to offer for their customers. And we do expect that all those solutions that we have implemented will partly assist our customer during this difficulty time, and not only with steel price, but also in the pandemics as well, when the demand is quite short. Thank you, and I wish you all well.
Wow, thank you so much, Sanji, for very useful information that you just shared on the very hot topic at the moment. And hello, everyone, 1,000 people on the live stream right now, and our guests, honored guests that joined in here. Now I would like to invite everybody move to the Q&A sections. Interestingly, actually, at first, when we do a lot of online webinar, we felt it's lack of interaction with everyone, but I don't feel this feeling today because I received so many questions and interactive conversation during our presentation here on the chat box and also via my message. Well, we have so many questions here, and during the very limited timeline, JOL and also KCN and BlueScope will try to respond as much as we can. But in case that we cannot do so, please contact us after this. So I will run the Q&A section right now. We face into so many challenges, and one of the things is that in Vietnam, for the total supply in terms of ready-built warehouse, or like accounted almost 60% of traditional warehouse, which quite low quality, and we talk about sustainability, that the word or APAC that is one of the big trend right now, and so much developers and fund and occupiers they care about during our discussion earlier. And now we face into the market, whether it's ready to sort of for the developer pursue the sustainable development because it requires bigger capitals. And now we face into the steel price increase significantly, so put also developers and fund under pressure of cost concern. So my question, the first question going to Ms. Trung Huynh. As a developer, one of the largest developer for these sectors, is your company pursuing sustainable development? And what as actually, if yes, and what are you doing in terms of pursuing sustainability value? Over to you, Ms. Trung Huynh.
Okay, thank you, Chang. Actually, sustainability actually is a core value for KCN. All our projects in the south will be doing solar panels. In addition to our industrial complex, we'll be putting together programs on recycling and managing wastewater treatment as well. So, you know, we've taken this COVID slowdown in terms of construction work to actually review and work with vendors and suppliers to see how better we can become a more sustainable developer, because we believe in the long run, the initial capital may be higher in the beginning, but in the long run, we are creating value add and product that will be sustainable for the future of Vietnam. And you can see Angie has shared some changes on the product design with technology and what developers are implementing, becoming more modern logistics warehouse and factories, going to multi-level as well. So in addition to that, we have 150 hectare industrial park in Bắc Giang. The Bắc Giang industrial park itself, we will be implementing, even though it's in the north, we're looking at putting solar panel as well. This will also be able for us to help service our end user, plus also the lower cost for electricity in the common areas as well, and then putting through recycling of plastic materials in the park. These are some of the initiatives that we're taking within our projects.
That's so great. Wow. You know, wait, something is technical pop up here. That's so great what you're doing as a developers, because, you know, well, where we facing too many pressures and challenge from cost and also the crisis right now everyone dealing with, as a developers, very glad that we see in KCN pursue this. So how about BlueScope? Well, we can see that you have some certificate pursuing for your product, but what action that you put into place to pursue the sustainable as a company and as a manufacturers?
Thanks, Ms. Chang. So in BlueScope, you know, sustainability impacts of our bond as a companies, and it actually includes many perspective from safety, from diversity, from supply chain sustainability. But I'm not going to talk about that. But I just want to share three things that relevant to our forum today. The first one is about climate change. So that's very important and directly impact to our manufacturing, right? So in Vietnam, so we have two factories, and then we have the plan with very clear target to reduce 6 million kg of CO2 emissions within 10 years. So and then we have been doing a lot of initiative from TRIA, reduce, recycling, etc. We also install the renewable energy in our factory. And we have other initiative to reduce our energy using during our manufacturing process as well. And as a company, only 3 days ago, BlueScope corporate in Australia had just announced that we target until 2050, BlueScope Global will achieve, we say, net zero carbon emissions. This is a very, very challenging target for the business, and a lot of effort and investment need to be done to achieve that capital roadmap, right? From technology implementations, from using of natural energy like renewable energy, and also from the material that friendly with the environments as well. That's it for the climate change. For the communities, so we have different activity to engage, not only with our suppliers in the supply chain sustainability perspective, but also for our customers as well. First one, for the past 5 years, I think we did a lot of activity together with our green partners. to educate, to engage with our customer, including contractors or investor or design consultant, so that we introduce them about green buildings, and we also assist them how to evaluate their own factory and how they can implement green for their own factories as well. So we do believe that we can help to speed up, to accelerate the green building roadmap for the country. And just last week, we also conduct together with Sydney University in Australia. We also conduct other seminar for thousands of engineers and then students about the new co-form designs standards. So this is a new technology that we want to implement in Vietnam. We want to speed up the uses of that because it uses less amounts of steel versus traditional one. And we believe that when we use less amounts of steel in the business, mean that we can also help to make the impact to the environment. And last but not least, as Ms. Trang mentions, it's about products we offer to the market, right? So from midstream perspective, we have steel material that can with special we have clean colorbones with special technology that can help to give very high solar reflection index, can let the factory, your warehouse coolers, which means that it reduces less energy for the warehouse. And from downstream perspective of LISAT, we also have the design service for the thermal efficiencies for the factory, by we advising the proper ventilation system for maximize the wind flow in the factory. We apply some of very high quality skylight system and other materials as well, so that we can give the efficiency for the customers in terms of energy savings. So that's all activity we do for the sustainabilities.
Wow, that's a lot. And that's great that we see, from the raw material suppliers and developers pursue this. Well, as a company, JL will continue to update, what trends from the occupiers and developers to pursue, from other mature market to Vietnam market where at the development phase, and so that we can learn and also we can adapt some trend. Well, just another subject here that, we received a question is that to Ms. Trung Huynh, as the largest logistics developers, one of the largest logistics developer in the country, what factors do you think will affect to the specification for the standard big box warehouse buildings in Vietnam over the next 5 years? Because right now we have less than over 50% of traditional warehouse. So, yeah.
Okay, Jan. In the next 5 years, I mean, technology keeps changing and improving so often, right? And she shared a lot about new research that's being done with materials. So, I think that significant will have an impact. But I think just besides the specification on raw materials and new technology, is one of the things that would be critical in the next 5 years is the way the Vietnamese authority and the government does planning and actually regulatory framework for the construction of these products. I think that will have a huge impact on the design and the specification of the product itself. When it comes to product design and spec, we are restricted by certain parameters of site coverage, height, what is included as GFA, what is green, what is excluded. And I think as a country, we need to have much more transparency and clearer guideline that is the same from all provinces. It's not interpreted differently from each province to each province. This will help us as investors and developers have much clearer guidelines. And it is from those clear guidelines and those foundations, you would see the change that will take place, because technological advancement will happen. Those materials will come to Vietnam. But the critical thing is, let's get our foundation right in the first place. And I think, ramps, we talk about multi-level warehousing, in other countries, the ramp is not included in the GFA. So you can see in Korea and Japan, they can go 5 stories, for multi-level warehousing, because then that way the end user can actually still access with the larger container trucks, and the upper floors are still as attractive as the lower floors. Vietnam needs to actually review some of these regulatory framework, I think. So that's where I feel the critical area for focus for the next 5 years is from that.
Wow, that's very interesting. Thank you so much for that questions. As for that answers, well, one thing that I received so many comments from the chat box and also via my phone is that, well, we talk a lot about the strong role for the industrial and logistics sectors for anti-Vietnam, but particularly to the north and the south. Well, it's a lot of activity going on. How about the central? What is our view as well, consultant like JLL and developer or investor like KCN? Well, it's so many, but it's summarized up that, question really care about the central, whether the central will catching up with the growth of, and the trend of activities compared with the north and the south. And in your view, Ms. Trần Huỳnh, and also us, also JLL, what the center need to do to attract more investor in the future? And the third part of the question is, how long we think that the central will sort of catching up with the north and the south? I will give it to you first, Ms. Trần.
Oh, okay.
Will you? Well, and then my personal question: will you invest in the central? Will you?
Will I invest in the central? The answer is not in the short term. Just to be quite honest, and just to share with you honestly is that Vietnam's got a great coastline, right? The central part for it to actually increase in terms of industrial investment and attracting FDI in the industrial sector, it needs to actually have something to pull Queen Bee into this area. So you need a magnetic, big, strong player to come into the central. So the government there needs to create and attract incentives to attract this and compete with the north and the south. That's one thing. And I think, the central is being a little bit, disadvantaged because the north and the south have moved much faster ahead in terms of that. You can see that the north is a very tech centric location for industrial. And you can see that the south is more FMCG, manufacturing, goods, and then the Mekong region, you've got the agri-product, right? So what makes the central part of Vietnam different? I think we need to figure out what is the attractive part of that. And then from there, they can work on a marketing campaign to really bring in a big queen bee to the central part. Secondly, I feel that the infrastructure system is not there. And the central still needs to compete with, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City as the hub of the business cities for the country. So that's also going to be, an impairment for the central to roll out. In addition, the ability to attract labor, resources. The population is not there compared to, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, where we've got a much bigger pool and reach to attract laborers into this location. So I think until we can address all those three key areas, it will take time for the central to develop.
Wow, thank you so much for that answers. I totally agree with you. And so for JL view, I think that, for KCN, they invest in sort of, for the strategy development that's serving for supply chain and also for logistics demand. That will come a little bit later compared to large, formation of the queen bee production. So for the central, Ms. Trần raised a very good point where she said that we need to find what is make the central strong, and that's our strength to sort of utilize that. And I think that for surprisingly that in the central, Quảng Trị or Quảng Ngãi, basically now a very much heavy industry kind of production. House. And then Da Nang is not really the place for industrialization at all because it's much more focused in terms of tourism. Now, if we look at the central, then another city is Huế, which is just quite, interesting. There's a lot of questions in Huế too, but during the section today, we won't pick up one city to discuss. But we did just yesterday about the webinar related to attraction for FDI into the central, and we found that one thing is so interesting is that, you know, for two particular industry, which they super care, the top care about sustainability, sustainability is that pharmaceutical production kind of company, and secondly is that the medical, because you know they produce something to heal people, they cannot pursue something, you know, like destroy the world, right? So these two particular industry that they care so much about that, and we found what interesting in the central is that this very much the place like Huế or sort of Da Nang, if it's kind of have the good foundation in terms of medical universities in and also the medical workforce working in Huế that accounted 1% of the population there. So that is just additional to the point that Ms. Chung raised, is that we need to find what is our strength to attract for FDI. And right now, I think that is a lot of attention from the central government to try to enhance that strength in terms of attract for the pharma city into the central region instead of others. You know, the central is basically much more green and landscaping and stuff like that. So we move forward to one very genuine question from Mr. Tree. Are you ready for that? It will be genuine, I think.
You scare me.
Yeah. And well, you know, the steel price has been increased significantly and is in the first half of the year, and it doesn't show any signal to reduce in the second half of the year. And it put the high price, I will quote exactly the question. The high price of the steel or increase significantly of the steel price is killing industrial developers' investment return, which is very marginal. So, Mr. G, what is your advice to industrial developer in this situation?
Well, this is a very challenging question, in fact.
Exactly.
Right? So as I said earlier, when we observe the steel price since last year until today, we see not only the steel price, but also I said the pandemic is also impacting on the current situations as well. And okay, I link back to the cost. If we look at one, I say standard warehouse, if I take out the landing costs and then some of other capital special equipment like the rack or some operating equipment inside, if I just divide into three parts, the first one is about the civil construction, which is foundation, etc. Second part is purely the steel house, the factory, which is the frame, the claddings, and then the purlins. And third one is M&E. If I just take that three part, right, and the steel, I mean the steel, the factory, the warehouse itself contribute around 30-35%. Depends on the qualities of the materials, depends on the location, depends on the land condition, which is weak or not, that you have to increase the portions of the foundation. And if you multiply with the increase around 30-35% price for the past 6 to 8 months, which is the total steel warehouse cost increase total around 10 to 12% on the total cost, right? So what we advise is that it depends on the segments that you want to place, that you choose the appropriate products. For example, as I said earlier, we have different tiers of products. If you build a factory in the cyclic or near severe environment like near the sea, you need to use very high quality products that you expect 40 years of performance, and it's a very high rent that you can put for the customers. But if you look at a short-term option, which is around 20-25 years, then we need to find alternative option, because like Mitran just mentioned, there are always have a flexibility in terms of short, mid, and long-term choice for the customers, and depends on the segment that they want to focus on. So I think that is how from the manufacturing perspective, we try to advise our customer to pick the most appropriate products, depends on the demand for that warehouse location or customers.
Right. Wow. It's a challenging question, but it doesn't seem a challenge for you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tree. So
you.
I'm going to the last question. I know, oh wow, it's surprisingly to me that a lot of people stay with us, and thank you for that. You know, I still can continue to receive a lot of comment and question, but you know, we don't have a lot of time. So allow me to pick one of the question here to Miss Jung, because I think that's quite appropriate. Is that EcoBuy? The question from EcoBuy that they have have any news for the cooling and frozen warehouse? And their Japanese, one of the FMCG Japanese client that need 20,000 square meters, normal, just normal cooling frozen warehouse, but they couldn't find any in Vietnam market. So do you have any sort of a new supply that, from your portfolio that accommodate that? This is quite direct.
Oh, okay. For us, we do. We have a location in Long An, which we're going through our process of getting the construction permit now. That part we will have a portion for cold storage. Our location in Long An is targeted around catering for the agri sector, with Long An being the gateway to the Mekong Delta and accessibility to Ho Chi Minh City. So, I have my team who will be happy to reach out to you and talk more about our product. And if they can get it early, we can do a build to suit solution whereby we can work with the end user and cater to their spec and build for them as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's have to answer the question. Well, there's I thought that is the last one, but there's another one that I see that quite important to answer here is that, well, is because of the pandemic, so it's difficult for the investor to evaluate their investment decision, and how can we assist the foreign investor to analyze industrial park and make the investment decision during this difficult time? Well, yeah, at this time, our JL team is very busy with this because they couldn't fly here. They do evaluate for their investment. So we do a lot of work, that advisory for underwriting their investment and verification for their transactions. So you can contact JL after this in case that if you are considering in any investment opportunity. So, okay, I know that thank you so much for everybody participating in the webinar this morning. And thank you so much for the most interactive section ever. Well, I see a lot of questions still coming in my message, keep popping up and here in the chat box. But now I think that everybody looking forward for lunch, and we share our contact here. So please message us or email us, for further inquiries or any follow-up question or also clarification. Thank you so much, Ms. Trần Huỳnh from KCN and Mr. Trí from BlueScope for joining us JOL this morning section. I look forward to do more with you and sharing more information with everyone. And I hope that when the pandemic is over and the lockdown is everything is resumed, I hope that we can see each other in person. Take care and also stay safe at the same time. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Angie.
Have a good day.